Clark County Today is presented by Connell Real Estate. Hire an agent, get a team. Learn more by visiting connellrealestate.com.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. It's Chris Brown. Clark County saw 17 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 today, bringing our total to 758. Now, despite the increase, hospitalizations continued to be low with 9 confirmed cases in Clark County hospitals and no new deaths in nearly a week. The county filed its application today with Secretary of Health John Weisman to move to Phase 3 of reopening. Approval could come as soon as this weekend or early next week. Now, the rate of new cases has been within the state's required level despite a sharp uptick happening this week. A crowd of about 300 showed up this afternoon in downtown Vancouver for a rally to show opposition to Governor Jay Inslee's face mask requirement, which went into effect today. The rally was hosted by the groups People's Rights Washington and Patriot Prayer. Most in attendance showed their opposition to the governor's requirement by not wearing face coverings and professing to continue in defiance of Inslee's requirement. As the size of the crowd increased, the gathering was moved into an open space near the Clark County Courthouse. A separate event, a parade to honor law enforcement, started near the Clark County Fairgrounds and continued to the Vancouver Police Department's West Precinct. You can check out our website and social media channels for more coverage of those events. So if you must wear a mask, how can you do so properly? We sent Jacob Graneman to Peace Health Southwest to find out.
Thanks, Chris. So I'm here at Peace Health Southwest, where we got to speak with some folks about the proper way to don and doff masks, which is their medical terms for taking on and off a mask. And there's actually very specific ways to do this. In fact, there's things that are not commonly known about masks and how they should be washed, when they should be washed, how they should be taken on and off, when they should be taken on and off. So the folks here at Peace Health were helpful enough to demonstrate that for us. So let's take a look.
You don't want to touch that mask. This part of your mask is dirty, inside and out. So you really want to use these great ear loops, remove them, and get rid of your mask. Just pitch it. So right now my hands are clean. I've started, I'm going to look at a new mask to put on. Again, this is a basic procedural mask. I'm going to hold on to the ear loops, avoid touching that mask, put it up over my ears. Now at this point in time, again, my hands are clean. I'm going to tuck it around my chin, and many of these masks have a aluminum piece right here around your nose to fit better. So I'm going to tighten that up around my nose, and I've donned my mask.
Also, while we were here, we got to learn about their process for now having patients who are in the eye center, the eye care center, have buzzers, just like you might see at Applebee's or any other restaurant. They have them, and the waiting room actually allows them to go and wait in their car instead of having to take up space in the waiting room. So that has opened up a lot of space for them to be able to have freedom for their patients, and it's something that they expect to be using even post-COVID. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks for that report, Jacob. If you need a face mask but you can't afford one, you can pick one up from CRESA. The Emergency Management Agency is handing out more than 200,000 cloth face coverings to low-income individuals and families. They'll be made available through the Clark County Food Bank, Council for the Homeless, and Share of Southwest Washington. Any other agencies wishing to obtain masks to hand out can email info@councilforthehomeless.org. That's info@councilforthehomeless.org to make a request. Vancouver Police Chief James McElvain has joined Clark County Sheriff Chuck Atkins in the banishment of all thin blue line symbols and decals. McElvain issued a statement Thursday in response to criticism over the removal of signs and gestures of support offered by members of the community at the VPD's 2 precincts on Wednesday. A report published by LawEnforcementToday.com circulated on social media stated that McElvain had spat in the faces of community members who turned out to love on members of the Vancouver Police Department. Now, McElvain denied that he was responsible for the decision to remove all signs and other materials left at the precincts by the appreciative community members. However, he did defend the decision and also explained his reasoning for the removal of all thin blue line symbols and icons. As far as the scorned community members, McElvain said he and staff will make an effort to mend any hurt feelings. Well, McElvain's comments followed some controversy earlier this week when Clark County Councillor Temple Lentz put forward a letter in support of a decision by Sheriff Chuck Atkins to remove those thin blue line flag decals from vehicles, uniforms, and office spaces. Council Chair Eileen Quiring was the lone dissenting voice to the letter, calling it disrespectful to the families of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty and saying she believes systemic racism is not an issue in Clark County. In a follow-up letter sent on Friday, Councillor Gary Medvedji defended his signing of the letter, saying he supports law enforcement, but that the thin blue line image has been co-opted in some circles to mean something offensive to many minority communities. It's a complicated story. We urge you to get both sides by reading the full stories at clarkcountytoday.com. Of course, you can sound off online on our Facebook pages, social media, Twitter, all kinds of different channels. Just try to do so politely. Well, as many of you know, the wheels of local government can move frustratingly slowly at times. Recently, Vancouver City Councillor Bart Hansen and his son responded to a Facebook post from a local business owner by taking matters into their own gloved hands.
Hello. Today I just want to give a shout out to Vancouver Council member Bart Hansen and his son. They saw a video on Facebook. Someone tagged him actually and said, "Hey Bart, what can you do about this?" A small business owner had posted a video complaining about kind of getting nitpicked about his sidewalk when his sidewalk was fine, but across the street there was a sidewalk that was overrun by bushes and other debris and it was unusable. So Councilmember Hansen and his son on Saturday took about 3 hours, a couple machetes, some weed eaters, and went to work. And hey, they got the job done. Here's Councilmember Hansen with his story.
I mean, what you're basically looking at is what my son and I, Lewis, cleared out and put about 3 hours work into it. It's impassable. The berry bushes were about this high. And so Lou cut them down over here. Lou worked over here, I worked over there. And, you know, volunteer project for him. This is definitely illustrating the point that Goldie's Barbecue was trying to make. And that is, how come I can get harassed by the bureaucracy, whether that be county, whether it be health, whether it be city. How can I get harassed by the bureaucracy for a sidewalk that is absolutely beautiful over there, by the way? You take a look at the sidewalk and there's really not much or anything to complain about over there. And then you take a look at a sidewalk over here, it's completely impassable. So, you know, we came out here and it's not a matter of who owns the sidewalk at this point. It's just a matter of getting the sidewalk cleared, and then we can go back and we can look at, you know, how do we move forward from here? That's what's important. So, you know, you never know what you're going to run into. And here we ran into some very interesting berry bushes, ran into some hypodermic needles. Vancouver Police Department was nice enough to come out and help us with the sharps. Appreciate that. VPD does a great job. And just went from there. Quite a project.
Well, much like other school districts in Clark County, Vancouver Public Schools recently finished a student, staff, and parent survey about strategies for reopening schools in the fall. Center for Educational Effectiveness conducted a survey and had over 7,000 parents, over 3,000 students, and over 2,000 school district employees respond. The summary of the results were that if appropriate precautions were in place, 95% of school staff, 92% of students, and 89% of parents said they would return to school always, often, or sometimes. The respondents explained that the most important factors for them were daily cleaning and disinfecting practices, as well as mandatory quarantine for people testing for COVID-19. Now, staff was more supportive of masks and social distancing than parents were. The biggest motivation for returning to full in-person instruction, many said, was socialization and teacher-led learning. The Battleground School District also released details of their first community survey this week. Out of more than 4,000 responses the district received, just over 70% said they would send their students back to a building, but nearly 6% said they would keep their children home, and almost a quarter of respondents said they're still undecided. The district has seen kindergarten enrollment drop by nearly half compared to this time last year, as parents of younger children debate what to do. Most parents said they would prefer not to have students wear masks in class or even on the bus. Right now, Battleground School District is leaning towards a mixed model, with students coming to a building for a couple days a week, up to 5 hours, and then working remotely the rest of the time. They hope to have finalized details available sometime in July. Now, things are a little different at Clark County's private schools. As we told you earlier this week, Kingsway Christian, Seton Catholic, and Cornerstone Christian said they hope to have robust in-person classes along with revamped online learning. Administrators at Kingsway and Cornerstone said they hope to provide options for their families so that they feel comfortable and that their students still get a good education. At Kingsway, that will include new motion tracking cameras for teachers and Chromebooks for any students who need one. Now, while state mandates will likely continue requiring masks at schools, Kingsway Superintendent Jason Tyndall says their smaller class sizes should make social distancing easier. All 3 schools said they will continue to communicate plans to families through their website and emails. And now to Paul Valente with a couple of sports stories. The WIAA lays out new guidelines, and a new regional baseball league hopes to play in July.
The WIAA's return to activity guidelines have been out for a week or so now, but not everyone in Clark County is jumping at the chance to return to activity. After June 19th, school campuses, in theory, could be open for some team activities. And yes, we've heard a few programs have got together in small groups, social distancing as well. But most coaches, we have learned, are waiting until Clark County gets into phase 3 of the pandemic recovery. In phase 2, right now, you can only practice with 5 people at a time, 5 athletes at a time. And let's say volleyball or football, you can have a ball, but that ball cannot be passed to anyone or shared with anyone. Not here to discuss, the science behind that or whatever, but let's just, you can imagine how tough it would be to practice volleyball or football when the ball has to stay with one person. So anyway, starting next week, we're hoping Clark County gets into phase 3, and then maybe more teams will return to activity. Hey, it appears there will be baseball, or at least there are plans for baseball to be played in the region. The Portland Pickles, a member of the West Coast League, are starting a kind of a new league just for this year, the Wild Wild West League, and there'll be 4 teams. The plan is to start July 11th. The games will probably be played south of Portland for pandemic reasons to begin with, but they might get back to Portland eventually later on in the summer. Reached out to the Ridgefield Raptors? No, the Raptors are not going to be part of this. Just too many uncertainties with the pandemic. However, there are Clark County baseball players on the rosters right now, and the rosters are still being finalized. Portland Pickles will have more to announce in the coming days.
All right, thanks, Paul. And there is your Friday look at the stories we're following for you at clarkcountytoday.com. Be sure to follow us, as I said, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can see when stories are posted and share your thoughts about them. You can also help us out by sharing us with your friends and family. For all of us, I'm Chris Brown. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.